Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. I represent the 18th Congressional District, and I'm delighted to be hosted by Pastor Joseph R. Johnson, who owns this plot of land with his wonderful congregation. It is a historic church, the Greater Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church, and we chose to stand here so that we can emphasize the excessiveness of what is described as modern transportation. We want everyone to see what this church and this community and many communities are going through, so that the side of those who are impacted by I-45 and the State Transportation Agency can be able to tell their story. So I first want Pastor Johnson to welcome us, and then I will begin very quickly. Thank you, Pastor Johnson.
We want to say good evening to all of you. Certainly we are blessed to be here this afternoon. We want to welcome you here at the Greater Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church. We are so delighted to have you here, and Sheila Jackson Lee, and we just want to give you open arms and our gratitude and welcome you here to share with you the Greater Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church. We are one of the churches that going to be involved with the freeway. So we want to thank you for coming, and thank Sheila Jackson Lee for coming and partnering this meeting with us.
Can you just share what happened to your church?
Okay. Greater Mount Olive is one of the oldest churches.
How old is it?
119 years old. We are one of the oldest churches here in this neighborhood. When I come to this church 27 years ago, we only had a little small wood building sitting over there, and we worked, and God blessed us, and we worked, and God blessed us. The storm come by in 2008 and blew the tree down and tore the church down, and we were off of this ground for 7 years, and after 7 years we were allowed to come back and struggle and build and struggle and build. I worked on this church day and night, day and night, day and night. Mostly I and a couple of friends of mine, we worked on this church day and night to get it up to what you see now. And now we have been given the news that we're gonna have to move. So it's really a distracting, a hurting thing to us, because we thought after all you see here and all of our hard work, we thought that we were set for the rest of our life. But here we are in front of you, and you are witness that.
So when the freeway is built, where will your church be if it was built the way it's designed?
When we're going to be on 431 Tidwell.
No, when this church, when the full freeway would be built, where would it be? If you were still here?
Or if the freeway wouldn't be there, we would. It's a whole lot we had there, because we would have all at the back, build our fellowship hall.
You'll be under the freeway.
Well, we'll be under the freeway.
Okay.
If this church stay here and they build a freeway, because they're telling us we are sitting in lane 7, so that's where you see along that trash can there. So we are sitting in lane 7, so we are sitting in the freeway now when the freeway comes through.
All right.
Yes.
So, and I see Commissioner is here, and I want to yield to him. If the freeway is in its normal footprint, lane 7, and I think the back of the property would be up to lane 10.
Yes.
So this is where this church of 119 years would be, in this very historic area. Let me ask, before I complete my remarks, Commissioner Adrian Garcia, who is between appointments. We have committed to working with each other as the representative for the federal government. My commitment is to make sure that Harris County, the city of Houston, are heard by the Secretary of Transportation, and that they are heard such that TxDOT, who gets billions, and at this point of their history, trillions of federal dollars, does not diminish and undermine the very important ideas that Harris County has. And one of the ideas is to be retained within the original footprint of this freeway and still make it a sophisticated, innovative approach to transportation. Adrian Garcia.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Adrian Garcia, Harris County Commissioner, Precinct 2. I want to thank the Congresswoman for her leadership and her work. She's been tireless at making sure that the communities are heard and that Harris County and the City of Houston both have an opportunity to weigh in. Look, we want to see a safe and effective transportation system, and we have been working tirelessly, and I want to acknowledge County Attorney Christian Menifee for his work. He has been able to cobble together, I believe, agreements that move us in the right direction. Now, because of the way we've been working this, we need TxDOT to meet us and commit to the points of consideration that they've agreed to. All within the footprint, all within the idea of making the project happen. We need to make sure that if this project happens, that local entities participate actively in making this project. That's the only way we're going to be able to hold this accountable. But I want to simply say that this is not my first rodeo, as we like to say here. I was on Houston City Council when there was the last discussion to take up historical elements of our community, whether it was Hollywood Cemetery, the Lower Heights, or in this regard, this beautiful church. So we must be smarter. We have some of the best engineers in the world working here in Texas and Harris County in particular. Let them make a design that allows us to move forward in a very effective and meaningful way, providing all the amenities that will provide us a cleaner environment, a safer community, hike and bike trails, green space. These are all things that are attainable, and this is what County Attorney Christian Menifee has been able to help us bring to the table. Now we need TxDOT to be a good partner and meet us the rest of the way. That is what is going to allow us to move forward. And so, Congresswoman, thank you for your leadership. I apologize that I've got to leave, but I've got another pressing appointment that I have to get to.
Thank you,
and let me make some quick remarks in Spanish. I'm going to provide some remarks in Spanish. Solo estoy aquí para apoyar la congresista Sheila Jackson Lee, para ayudar y asegurar que el proyecto de la carretera 45 se llegue a hacer en un modo responsable, en un modo que nos ayuda a tener una carretera que es sana y segura, apoyando el ambiente de nuestra comunidad, asegurando que tenemos elementos que lleguen a dejar la comunidad caminar y conducir en un modo mucho más seguro. El procurador del condado, Christian Menifee, ha podido construir un acuerdo con TxDOT. Ahora necesitamos que TxDOT, el Departamento de Transportación de Texas, nos llega a medir en el camino, en mitad del camino, con todo lo que hemos suplicado. Todo se ha construido y ahora necesitamos que TxDOT, que el Departamento de Texas, se llegue a arrimar y confirmar el acuerdo que tenemos a mano. Esto nos va a ayudar a mantener el proyecto y dejar empresas aquí locales trabajar y asegurar que vamos a tener una carretera que es mucho más seguro de lo que tenemos hoy. Y no tumbando elementos de historia, sea esta iglesia, o sea el cementerio de Hollywood, o las comunidades de las áreas del Heights. Todo eso es posible con todo lo que el procurador Christian Menifee ha podido trabajar con ellos. Gracias.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you. I need these posters held up, please. You can hold them in your hand. You can hold them in your hand. Here, give him that one. And, excuse me. And you can hold this on the other side of it. Just hold it up. So, I am here as the congressional representative who, along with other congressional members, are impacted by I-45. But the 18th Congressional District has the largest chunk of land being confiscated from these neighbors and friends out of the I-45 plan as it presently is. I hold in my hand the MOU from Harris County, the MOU from the city of Houston. My point to the business community as I lay out for you what the basic tenet is of both, that this plan operate in the present footprint, that taking 10 lanes, taking property that could be in actuality expanded and made into community services is not serving the community. Taking what is already gone, the age-old downtown Chinese community, of which I used to participate in restaurants and various other representation of the community. That's destroying what is a cultural icon of Houston. Independence Heights is a cultural icon of Houston. The church is 119 years old. Independence Heights is the first city that was incorporated in this area. And then I stood in front of these apartments. Does anyone think they look like tenements? Those are the lofts at the ballpark. They have been destroyed, potentially. Public housing, if I had not engaged with TxDOT, there would have been no swap for the destruction of Clayton homes. So, what the city and the county, as they present these MOUs, is for TxDOT to be able to push itself to be able to ensure that these elements are addressed. And let me read you these elements. To assure the air quality in adjacent schools, building to a 500-year flood standard and not 100-year. We believe that when this construction is over, it will worsen the flooding in our community. We already know what has happened in taking out 3rd Ward, large chunks of housing. Freemanstown has already experienced losing historic elements. Does anybody remember the construction of 59? It took a huge swath of 5th Ward. If Representative Dutton and myself had not fought, you don't know there would not have been an entry or exit in 5th Ward. 288 took out brick homes of teachers that taught at Texas Southern and the schools in the historic 3rd Ward. Every time there is some representation of progress, communities of color are impacted. I've just finished talking to the U.S. Department of Transportation and explained to them how much needed they are to ensure that TxDOT will sit at the table and not red ink these MOUs. That's what we expect, that red ink will be to do these MOUs. So here's what we want. Displacement and noise and air quality in low-income communities of color, to remedy unsafe designs at highway-urban interfaces so that we do not further divide the communities. My letter was sent in 2020. Letters were sent in 2021. So let me share others. This is what the summary of the MIUs represent. Why? Because I captured what the city and as well the county have captured more detailed in their MOUs. This letter, again, is given to each and every one of you. It is December the 7th, 2020. This is how long we've been dealing with this, preceding the pandemic. This is what we have asked to mitigate these issues, minimizing displacement of single-family, multifamily, and public housing. That has already begun, to my dismay. And businesses, over 1,000 units are currently slated for displacement. That was Clayton Homes. Then they added, unfortunately, the lofts at the ballpark. Protecting historical and cultural sites identified by advocacy groups, historians, the city of Houston, or community residents. Can TxDOT document that they are concerned and will find a way to preserve these historic neighborhoods. Improving neighborhood level air quality. That is so important. The air quality is even deteriorated, as we have seen on the east part of my district and certainly in areas of Fifth Ward. Protecting green space and parks within each impacted neighborhood. Erecting 2-direction transit lanes. Installing BRT stations along the route of I-45. Bringing I-45 north up to current safety design standards. Statistics will show you that Texas has the largest number of deaths on its freeway system. Controlled by TxDOT, and I-45 is one of the deadliest freeways in the state and maybe the nation. Designate 2-lane frontage roads on city streets. Improving drainage on Little White Oak and Halls Bayou. We have recently brought federal funds to improve the construction and design of those bayous. Substantially mitigating flooding in Independence Heights. I have been to the homes that have been flooded. I've been to the homes of senior citizens who have had the eminent domain representative of TxDOT knock on their door and say, we're taking your home, this is how much. It's not giving them enough money to go and live comfortably and without debt somewhere else. Save costs to taxpayers and improve bicycle and pedestrian safety, especially at crossings over and under I-45. I think where we're standing today is an example of the breadth and depth of destruction that can occur. This church can receive some dollars, not enough to rebuild. This is a new brick church. The pastor was very modest. He built this himself with his members after the destruction of it through the flood. They were happy with their parking lot. They were accessible to their members and to the neighbors. And when TxDOT said, your church is going to be under the freeway, and I don't know, that is an enormous height for a freeway, at your church is going to be under the freeway. These individuals who don't have the power of TxDOT felt they had no other direction but to get out. That is what's happening all up and down these blocks. No other direction but to get out. And so I've engaged the U.S. Department of Transportation to oversee the Title VI action that presently is in order. The Harris County has a lawsuit, but our Title VI is still operative and active. And the issue is that TxDOT can do nothing until they are reparably in compliance with the responses to the questions and the MOU that has been given. So I wanted to do this today as I get ready to go back to Washington, to be able to say to the business community, we are ready to be at the table. There are negotiations going on now, but the representation is that these documents will come back red, rather than coming back where we can have large chunks of agreement that will change the landscape and help these citizens who are here. Leonel Castillo Community Center off of I-10, that is going to take a sizable amount of property in that area, a sizable amount of Leonel Castillo, and a sizable amount of homes. Beautiful trees and landscape area that I've actually stood on over in that area, and that is going. The question that the Biden administration has asked when all of its federal funds, it is a new policy of the U.S. Department of Transportation that transit should be equitable. It should be equitable in all communities, and design should be equitable. And what TxDOT has done is it has pre-designed, obviously, because these projects take a long time. What we are saying to the business community, to the civic community, we have no desire to stop it without the reasonable discussion and responses to these community leaders. Their stopping is because no one is listening. We want to be listened to, and they have been faithful in their fight for better air quality, for not losing the property that they have, and making sure that their historic communities are in fact utilized in a way that is attractive and that will make a difference in our communities. transportation today in the 21st century must be palatable for the community. It must be a good neighbor in the community. You must come to transportation mobility and different modules of transportation, and the community should be waving and saying, that's a project that has listened to us. I will be speaking to Secretary Buttigieg of the U.S. Department of Transportation. I am scheduling an invitation for his presence to see for himself, so that there can be the kind of genuine negotiations. And that's what I'm standing here for today. Genuine negotiations. Will I speak to TxDOT? Absolutely. We'll be talking this afternoon, and I'll relay to them what I'm relaying here and seek a commitment that the negotiations with the city and the county, constituents of mine in the 18th Congressional District, will be genuine, sincere. It will be reflective of Chinatown that was booming 40 years ago, but still existing. Now the I-45 project could erase it entirely. Of course, we know that's the Houston Chronicle's story, and we appreciate that. And then I stood here to stop the demolition when they looked like they were violating Title VI. It's still standing. It's empty. That project is not 20 years old. Let me acknowledge my friends that are here, and acknowledge Chris Chudiliad, who is with Judge Hidalgo. I thank her for her presence here today, for his presence here, but her presence through you, Chris. Thank you so very much. And let me acknowledge Kevin Strickland, TxDOT 45. Kevin, thank you, one of the guiding forces. Thank you so very much. Susan Graham, TxDOT I-45. Susan, you're hiding yourself. All right. Let me acknowledge Katie Mendoza. Oh, thank you. What is the last name? Merza. Thank you. Molly Cook. Okay. Mr. Vasquez, Anton, and Johnson, Ashley Johnson. Thank you all. Thank you very much. I want to at least yield to Susan. We are here to push TxDOT to negotiate at the negotiating table. Did I get you, my good friend? Did I introduce you? Fabian Marias, thank you so very much. Thank you. I also want to let you know that these are neighbors. Cynthia Rodriguez, and we had representatives from the Independence Heights. We thank them for their presence as well. So, Susan, are you gonna, anyone that's gonna be the single representative? As they speak, Air Alliance is speaking. I just want to acknowledge Air Alliance, the quality of life, air quality, and that's all these neighbors are fighting for, is a better quality of life. Susan, thank you so very much.
Susan Graham, TxDOT I-45. We're a grassroots activist and advocacy organization fighting for environmental justice in transportation, fighting against the car-centered paradigm, and fighting against destruction of our inner city neighborhoods and our history in Houston. And we are very grateful for the support of our Congresswoman. And we have, we're going to Austin on a week from tomorrow, to talk to the Texas Transportation Commission about the Unified Transportation Plan. So if you want to go with us and hop on our bus, follow us on social media, find us on the web, and we'll be happy to put you on the bus and help you write comments to show up for your neighborhood and for your community. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, dear. These neighbors have been consistent in their fight for the quality of life, for air, for housing, for bicycle paths, for better transit, and for the respect of neighborhoods. I want to thank them for that because that is our message. difference. We stand here in front of buzzing noise, nonstop, air pollution, nonstop. We realize that this is a mode of transportation that Texans are used to, but we want to give them something better that combines the issue of transit and combines the issue of quality of life. Do we have any questions at this time?
Yeah, you mentioned these MOUs. When were those submitted? Were those submitted recently or back in 2020?
No, these are updated.
Updated.
Yes.
Will your team be providing copies of these for us?
And not at this time because they are in the midst of negotiation.
Okay. And then with the loss of the ballpark situation, have you heard anything from the Federal Highway Administration about their investigation into that?
Well, when we did a reach out to them, they clarified the issue. The problem is whether or not the TxDOT was moving on the loss before the title